Okay, so remember back in the day, aka like 2 units ago, when I gave you guys an algebraic proof, and it was like, 2x plus something equals to this, and you solved it, right? And each time you solved it, you wrote what you did, like what step you did. You guys remember that? Yes, no? Okay, good. Okay, so that's what we're doing now. The only difference is now we're using vocabulary, okay? So it's a little bit harder because you have to know your vocab. And it's a little bit harder because you have to know how to notate on your pictures. What I'm doing for you guys is I'm giving you a word bank, okay? That makes it a lot easier for you. It's also a lot easier when we do it together. So make sure you're paying attention to everything we're doing, okay? All right, so a proof is a logical argument that shows the statement is true. A logical argument. A two-column proof is the type of proof with numbered statements and corresponding reasons that show an argument in a logical order. That's important. It doesn't have to be in a certain order every single time, but it needs to be kind of flowy. Your proofs need to flow. This means, so CPC-TC, that means corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. I do not expect you guys to memorize that. We've actually already done it, you just haven't realized it. But this means that once triangles are congruent, we could say even corresponding angles or sides are congruent. What that means is, remember when you guys just took your quiz, and let's say that we had two triangles. We had A, B, C, and D, E, F. And let's say that what would be my triangle congruency here? Based on those 5 on the board. What would this example be? Guys, look at these 5. We just did side, 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 angle, angle, side, side, angle, side, hypotenuse, Legger, angle, side, angle. This would be side, side, side. Okay? On your quiz, you wrote it side by or side, 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 and then you said triangle ABC would be congruent to what? DEF. Okay? If they asked you for a reason for how you know that's true, your reason would be CPC-TC. Okay? You don't have to write this down. But that's what that means. That means that we've already proven that these two triangles are congruent. The reason why I know it is because my sides are now congruent and my angles are now congruent. Okay, so that's what that CPC-TC means. All right, let's go to example 1. All right, example 1. It says X is the midpoint of segment VY, and then it says X is the midpoint of segment WC. All right, so what is my midpoint? X, right? Let's make a little dot here. We're filling out my picture based on what they've already said. So if X is the midpoint of VY, that means that VX is going to be congruent to what? XY. Good. And then for part 2, it says X is the midpoint of WC. So if WX is X is the midpoint, WX is congruent to what? X. Okay? We just filled that in, all because 1, we know our vocabulary, and 2, we wrote in what they gave us. Okay, so this is your proof. They give us 2 points here, and then they want us to prove that triangle VX or VWX is congruent to triangle YZX. That's always going to be your last step. Whatever you're trying to prove is going to be your last step. Alright, so take a look at number 1. X is the midpoint of VY. How do I know that? Do we see that anywhere in my paper already? It's up here, right? So this is given. That's all you have to write. Before you start trying to figure anything out, you need to just look and see what they've already given us. Number 2 says X is the midpoint of WZ. How do we know that? They gave it to us. I don't have to figure out what they did or exactly how it works. I just know because they gave it to me. Okay, so 1 and 2 are given. That is only about you guys just looking at what they give us and you just write it in. Alright, so now I'm going to write segment VX is congruent to segment XY. How would I know that? It is the definition of midpoint. When they gave me that X was the midpoint of that whole segment VY, then I knew that VX was congruent to XY. Alright, what else would be definition of midpoint?
WX is congruent to XZ.
WX is congruent to XZ. By reason is definition of midpoint. Alright, look at angle X, or look at this whole picture. Do you guys see vertical angles here?
Yes.
Yes, at angle X, right? I know they're vertical because X is the midpoint. So we can go ahead and draw that in. Somebody, hello.
Oh,
You're fine.
this guy brought my thoughts over I left here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so he didn't just hold this on to my class. Hey, tell the guy in this one. Excuse me.
You know these kids?
I know quite a few of them. They're pretty nice guys.
For the most part.
Gals. The gals are really nice.
Besides Ashley, she's never nice, right?
She didn't mean to me already today. I made the mistake of talking to her while she was having breakfast. Don't I can't finish my apple juice.
Drop that off.
No, just the last for them. Maybe help you out. All right, thanks, Coach.
No problem. Alright, so step 5 says that angle BXW is congruent to angle YXZ. Alright, so I know that based on the angles I just put in there. What angles did we mark? What are those angles called that we just marked? Starts with a V. Vertical angles, yeah. These 2 angles are going to be congruent. I know that because X is the midpoint and they're both vertical angles. Are vertical angles congruent or equal to 180? They're congruent, right? That's what they want me to say. So we're going to say vertical angles. Alright, last they say triangle VWX is congruent to triangle YZX. Alright, do you guys see these 5 congruences on the board? Okay, what will be my reason for this picture here, for this proof?
Side angle side.
Side angle side, do we all agree with Lulu? Yes. So I know that these 2 triangles are congruent for side angle side. You guys see how this may be a little difficult if you don't have any statements and any reasons. You have to think about this all on your own, okay? So that's why I want you to make sure that you're listening to the things that we're talking about. I'm never going to give you a completely blank proof. We're clearly not ready for that yet. But you will have to know how to put in certain words based on the word bank I give you. Okay? Let's look at example 2. Alright, let's see if we can mark anything on our picture. It says angle PRS is congruent to angle PRQ. Okay, I don't have to mark anything there. RS is congruent to QR. They've already marked those hash marks. So we don't really have to do too much yet. Alright, so angle PRS is congruent to angle PRQ. How do I know that?
So you want
Picture
to
on that side.
What's my reason, guys? It's given. Remember, we're always looking for given first. What else is given?
RS is
RS is congruent to QR. Guys, on your test, this is half the battle. Okay? If there's 8 points here, you at least have 2 of them because one was given, you just had to write in the other given. Alright, so then it says PR is congruent to PR. It's the same exact thing, and we talked about this a little bit before, but not really in depth. Remember your reflexive property and your symmetric property? Which one would this be, reflexive or symmetric? If it was symmetric, it would say PR is congruent to RP. Like we kind of flip it. If it's reflexive, it's the same exact thing. So for number 3, we're going to write the reflexive property. Okay. Alright, so now the last 2, they want us to come up with the statements and the reason. I at least know what I'm trying to prove. I can put that in very last. I'm trying to prove that PQ is congruent to PS. Okay, so we at least can put that one in there. Whatever you're trying to prove always goes last. Alright, and I'm going to give you this number 4th statement. We have triangle PQR is congruent to what? What is PQR congruent to? PSR. Alright, so look at my 5 congruences on the board. Well, first let's mark my shared side. Which one of these is the shared side?
Yeah,
PR is my shared side. Alright, what could this be?
that's it.
Not quite, it doesn't have the hypotenuse label.
That's it. Side angle side.
Side angle side. If PS or PQ was labeled, then yeah, it would be HL. That'll be side angle side. So now PQ is congruent to PS. How do I know that? That'll be your CP, CTC. I know that because I've already proven it's side angle side. I'll go to example 2. All right, last one. Example 3. All right, they said that BC is congruent to EC. They've already marked it with hash marks. AB is perpendicular to AD. Sorry, AB is perpendicular to AD. That's good. And then DE is perp to AD. All right, guys. My first statement is going to be what? BC is congruent to EC. Lulu, how do you know that?
because
Because it's given. I have one of the givens. Angela, give me another given. AB is perpendicular to what? AD, and how do we know? It's given. number 3, Joseph,
Mm.
number 3, what's my reason, or my statement?
DE is equal to AD.
Perpendicular,
Figure that.
perpendicular to AD, how do we know that?
Mhm.
It's given, so in this case, we had 3 givens. It's got 6 points right there. Okay, just by writing exactly what was given. All right, so sometimes if you guys think back to when we had our algebraic proof, sometimes we didn't use all the spaces, right? Sometimes we stopped at 7, it all really depends, okay? For the most part, on your test, I'll go ahead and fill them in for you so you won't go over. But when you get a proof like this that's just open, that's a little bit harder. All right, number 4, we are going to write angle A is congruent to angle D. What do you think your reason would be for that? What's angle A and angle D?
Right.
They're right angles, so we're going to write definition of right angles. For some of these, you can like kind of play around with it. If you wrote right angles are congruent, that's also fine. All right, and then we have angle ACB would be congruent to what?
DCE.
Angle DCD. Do you guys recognize that we have a vertical angle here? Do you guys see the vertical angle? What is it?
AB.
Huh? C, just angle C. So that means that AC is also congruent to DC. All right, so ACB is congruent to DCE. How do we know that? They're vertical angles, yeah. Vertical angles are congruent. I think you just have 6 steps here. All right, now we can say that triangle ABC will be congruent to what? Yep, that's what they said. DEC. And look at your 5 ways to be congruent. What would this one be?
Side angles.
Oh, you know what? Wait, scratch that. I messed up. We technically don't know that these are congruent. So now looking at it,
Angle on the side.
that'll be angle side. It wouldn't be completely wrong if you did that. It would actually still be an option. But because they've already given us 3 ways to be congruent, we don't have to add a 4th by making that line pair or congruent.
So, but if we just made it congruent.
If you wrote it in there, it's fine. Yeah. But this would be a more correct answer. All right, any questions? Okay, so your homework, I gave you 2 proofs to do, okay? On your 2 proofs, on your homework, you guys have, it's homework E, right? Yeah, homework E. You have 2 proofs. You guys see how there's nothing here, right?
Mhm.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how hard would this be to do?
11.
Probably a 10, okay? It took me a long time to learn how to do proofs. All right, if you go to Blackboard, I have given you a startup, all right? So let's go ahead, I'll show you how to get there. I'm not sure how often you guys are using Blackboard. All right, so once you get there, you're gonna type this in, type in your username. All right, you're gonna go to geometry. Click on the side. You go to assignments. What unit are we in? 5. Don't be like a kid in my first period who got lost in unit 2. They couldn't find it. All All right, homework E, do you guys see where it says proof startup?
Mhm.
Click that. I scanned it for you. Okay, here are your statements. Here's your word bank that you can put your reasons for number 1. If you scroll, here's number 2. You write these statements. Here are your reasons. There's your word bank that you would put here. Okay? Your word bank is fairly simple. It's not like I gave you 10 and you're picking out 4. You need 4 reasons. You have 4 things in your word bank. Same thing up here. Does that make sense? If I were you, I would go ahead and start it now. You guys still have a little bit of time before the bell. You can get it checked off before you guys leave.